morning. Call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. My name's James Bell, and I'll be serving as the chairman tonight. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting from March 7th, 2024. We will hear the cases in the order that they appear on the agenda. The first matter of business is citizens' comments. Any citizen wishing to appear before the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding any matter posted on the agenda was to sign up no later than 6 p.m. of the day of the meeting. It's my understanding nobody has signed up, so we'll go on to the first order of business, which is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of February 1st, 2024. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Noble. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Up next are the zone cases. When we call your zone case, the following steps will be followed. The chair will call, if I can get to it, it's my first meeting, so bear with me here. First case is zone case number 0804-C. Could I have the staff please present?
Good evening. My name is Ashley Padilla. This is zone case 0804-C. The applicant is Westar Commercial Realty for Cross Timberland Holdings, LLC, requesting a rezone from SF2 to HC. We've sent out 12 notifications, receiving 0 in favor and 0 in opposition. This property is located west of North I-27 and south of Regis Street. Here's an aerial view of the property. To the north is a restaurant and a commercial retail business. To the east is a truck stop, and to the south and west is vacant land. The current zoning is low-density single-family SF2. The future land use plan designates this property for commercial. Here are photos of the property and its surroundings. Here's an overhead view of the property. Here are a few graphics provided by the applicant. The future land use map designates this area for commercial land uses. The proposed zone change to HC would be in conformance with the commercial designation. This request would be appropriate next to the adjacent land uses and zoning to the north and east near a retail node and fronting onto arterial streets. The proposed zoning request is in conformance with the zoning ordinance, is compatible with the surrounding area, and will not change the character of the existing development. The proposed rezoning locations will be along Regis Street. Regis Street is designated as a principal arterial, and staff recommends approval, and I can take any questions.
Are there any questions for the staff? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here to speak? If you could please come forward, please state your name and address, please.
Kevin Watt, Westar Commercial Realty, 5709 79th Street.
Is any comments you'd like to make to the application?
We're just changing the zoning on this so we can develop it down the road. The client is either thinking about putting some buildings on there or selling it to somebody else to develop. And with the residential zoning on it, it's a little difficult to sell it for retail.
Okay, thank you.
That's what we're doing. Thanks.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this zoning case? If so, please come forward and state your name. Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. For matter of discussion, does anybody have a motion?
I have a motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Mr. Noble,
Second.
second by Mr. Sawyer. Any discussion?
Yeah, there's a, if I remember right, there's a restaurant across the street, maybe up a little bit to the northwest. I don't know if it's active or not, but, and then you got this picture here to the north with a cell phone tower or some kind of tower. So I think it's a good fit. It'd be a nice addition to that area.
I tend to concur with it the way it is. I think that's probably more compatible than residential right there. Does anybody else have any other comments? Okay, so we have a motion to approve. Is there, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. This will be forwarded to City Council at their next meeting. Next case that we will hear is zone case number 3.2, zone case number 2565G.
Hello, Board. I'm Greg Hernandez with the Planning Department, and this is Zone Case 2565-G. The applicant is DLC Designs, LLC for JGK LLC, requesting to rezone from heavy commercial district to neighborhood commercial district. The property is located west of Texas Avenue and north of 29th Street. 18 letters were sent out, and we did not receive any back. Here's the aerial view of the property. To the southwest and north are vacant commercial property, and to the east is developed with commercial buildings. The current land use map shows the property surrounded by heavy commercial district. The future land use designates this property for commercial uses. Here's a picture of the subject's property as well as views to the south, east, and north. The future land use map designates this property for commercial land uses. The proposed zone change to NC would be in conformance with the future land use plan and the comprehensive plan principles. The proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance. The subject property is located on Texas Avenue and near I-27 and surrounded by commercially zoned districts. The zoning change to neighborhood commercial district will not change the surrounding area or the character of the existing development. The location is along Texas Avenue, which is designated as a collector street by the Master Thoroughfare Plan. Staff recommends approval of this request, and we can take any questions at this time.
Any members of the commission have any questions?
Yeah, I got a
for
question.
staff?
Why is the reason for the down zone?
So under the UDC, to develop a property in heavy commercial, you have to have 100 width, the length of 100-foot width. And the neighborhood commercial requires a 60-foot width. They're currently replatting this property, and it'll be about 90 feet is what the width would be. So in order to develop the property.
Any other questions?
Just real quick, the NC is equivalent to, remind me, that's C2, C1?
One, I believe.
C1, C2, C2A, from heavy commercial, okay. That's a good thing.
So it is a down zone.
Yeah.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is the applicant or his or her representative here? You'll please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Board. Amanda King for DLC Designs, 1318 North King. And Greg said it perfectly. It's our lot width, even with replatting, just gets us to 90. And so that's the only reason.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this case? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? No. Do we have a motion to proceed with?
Move to approve Zone Case 2565G.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second, Jordan.
Jordan. Okay, any discussion? No discussion? Okay, we have a motion in favor. Motion made by Mr. Hardaway and seconded by Mr. Wheatley. Trying to get everybody saying it first. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 8-0. Next case we hear is item 3.3, zone case number 3947.
Good evening. My name is Shane Spencer, and this is case 3497. The applicant is Martin Meza for Beatriz Torres, and they are requesting a neighborhood infill overlay on property zoned SF2. The subject property is located south of East 29th Street and east of Walnut Avenue. We have sent 78 notifications And we've now received back 2 in favor and 2 in opposition. And I believe the extra letter in favor is in your paper packet there. Here's a notification map. The 2 in opposition were primarily concerned about trash and the lack of parking. Here's the aerial map. The subject property is surrounded by single-family homes. And here's the zoning map, and it shows that this property is designated as low-density, single-family district, SF2. And the future land use map designates this property for low-density residential land uses. Here are photos of the subject and surrounding property. Here's a photograph of the accessory building. The purpose of the neighborhood infill overlay is to permit a detached accessory residential use, and it would be in this structure right here. The proposed neighborhood infill overlay is not in conformance with the zoning ordinance. The NIO would permit an accessory dwelling unit on a lot of 6,000 square feet or greater. Otherwise, this would only be permitted on lots of 10,000 square feet or greater. The proposed neighborhood infill overlay would not be compatible with surrounding property, as the surrounding area is already built out, and the purpose of the request would not pertain to infill or redevelopment. And the location is along East 29th Street and Walnut Avenue, which are both local streets. Staff recommends denial of this request, and I can answer any questions at this time.
So what brought this case on? Was it an inspection, or did the owner bring it himself? Was it a code violation that brought it up, or what prompted this?
I'd let the applicant speak to that. I do know that it is in order to have a detached accessory unit in the rear to live in, and because the lot does not meet the value that is in the code currently, this is one of the ways around it. In addition to this, if the board did approve this and council approved it, they would still be required to provide a total of 3 off-street paved parking spaces, and the owner would have to live in one of the 2 units. So.
Okay.
I did have one question for you. So in one of the images I'm seeing here, it says view of detached accessory unit, which leads me to believe it's existing.
Yes.
It is.
Okay. So the way it's written is a new accessory dwelling unit. It's not necessarily new, it's just, it's the renovation of an existing, what appears to be in a garage or already.
Yeah. The existing unit can be used for storage or non-residential uses, and so this would be to allow it to be used as a living quarters.
Okay.
But yes, it looks like it has been a garage at some point converted.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you. Would the applicant please come forward, state your name, address?
Hello, my name is Martin Mesa. I represent Beatriz Torres. She's the owner of the property on 2409. When she bought the property, it had a 2-car garage already converted. What we're trying to do is finish it up for her, but the structure itself was already done. So what we're looking for is permission to finish it for her. She's here, but that's what we're looking for. Permission for us to finish that project for her.
Has anybody been living in this?
No, sir. It's been vacant all this time.
Okay.
It's been vacant all this time. We took on the job and just basically drywalling, taping bed, and painting, the general stuff. Most of it was already done. We're just finishing it off for her. And that's why we're here today, to make it known that that's what we're intending to do. Just finish it off. We're not adding to it, we're not doing no construction on it. We're just simply finishing it off.
So will Miss Torres live in the main house?
She's not at the moment.
Okay.
So are you finishing it to live in it?
Yeah, it's gonna be a dwelling, yeah.
Okay.
So restroom, kitchen,
Restroom is a small kitchen and 2 bedrooms.
okay. And just so I understand, the owner of the residence does not live in the house?
At the moment, no.
Okay. So are there renters that live in this home right now?
There's a renter that rents the main house,
Main house, okay?
yeah. Yeah, that's
You're
what he had
correct.
mentioned,
I
that the
think
owner
that's
has
right.
to.
And does the dwelling have enough space for the parking allowance that there has to be with this particular property?
3 spots.
Is there enough space around this?
To build a driveway, yes.
Because isn't there a specific number of spaces that it has to have? And does this property have that? Or can we not tell?
So a third parking space would have to be added to the property in addition to the existing 2-space driveway in the front.
Off-street.
Off-street, yes. Mhm.
Okay.
And that can be done without moving or breaking the curb to be able to build a driveway. None of that has to be messed with, basically. So we can put the extra driveway on there.
Oh, Shane corrected me. There is only 1 parking space existing on the property today. So there's always required to be 2 parking spaces for a single-family home. So 2 spaces would have to be added for a total of 3.
That was my understanding. Paved.
Paved in asphalt or concrete.
It's gonna be concrete.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions for the applicant at this time? Thank you, sir.
Sir, could you state your address very quickly?
Excuse me?
Could you state your address?
My address, 2409 Hickory Avenue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I
Is-
confirm with staff? Move things step back up. Shane, just wanted to verify that you did say the homeowner had to live in one of the 2 properties?
Yes, the homeowner would have to live in either the front or rear unit, in addition to your parking spots. And this would reduce the lot area requirement from 10,000 to 6,000, so they could have that as a use. So.
And so the denial is not related to the living or the parking, correct? It's related to the overlay?
So just the overlay itself.
So this is our first time to have an,
It's our first time too. This is the first time we've had one of these.
Learning process for us all.
So, Shane, I'm trying to remember on this. Was there any consideration back in the UDC for something like this that was existing? Was there any consideration and wording about, I mean, this has clearly been there for some time.
Yes.
So when the UDC was adopted, it removed the provision from the former code that only allowed units constructed prior to 1980. It was my understanding, at least, that this was an accessory building, storage building, not a dwelling, that the applicant and owner were now looking to convert to a dwelling since October 1st. I mean, the applicant did say no one has been living in it. It has not been used as a dwelling. So this would be a conversion of an accessory building into a dwelling.
is there an a situation where you would approve this request for a neighborhood infill overlay for the accessory dwelling unit?
So the intent of the infill overlay district is, it's in the name, it's for areas that need infill. And so if you have an area where there's still a lot of vacant property, it needs new development to help it grow, the infill overlay relaxes the standards, the lot density and dimensions, and it allows some additional uses. It relaxes the minimum lot size to allow the accessory dwelling units. So yes, in a neighborhood that is not fully built out like this one, that needs that infill, that needs that growth and development, we would potentially recommend approval.
So I guess in a nutshell, in a way, if it wasn't just for one particular thing, but maybe a block or more, it would be more acceptable, more plausible for approval
Yes.
recommendation.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks right now for Shane. Okay, is there anyone here to speak in favor of this zone case? Anyone to speak in opposition? When you come up, ma'am, could you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes. My name is Kathleen Anderson, Kathyl. I live at 2940 UTE, not too far away from this proposed change. This will bring more traffic, more off-street parking. This is about the type of new development we need. If we don't have new development, we need more single housing instead of something like this. This is not what we need as new development in this neighborhood, and I live right around the corner.
Thank
Thank
you. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition?
My name is Rose Williams. I live at 2122 East 30th. I've been over there 65 years. I know this house well. It used to be a garage, just an open garage, and then they put a door on it and all other things like that. My thing is that y'all were mentioning parking about, this place. I can understand there's a driveway in front of the house, but then on the side where the driveway used to be, the garage, whatever, there's nowhere for no one to park but on the street. But I also have a concern about zoning in our neighborhood. They put a daycare in front of me. We were never informed about the daycare. So we have a problem with that. So I don't understand why some cases are more important than others. We have trouble with parking. This is a single home, a daycare, 10 to 15 children a day. They block our driveways. They park on the wrong side of the streets. They're disruptive. So I don't understand why it's such a big deal for them to build something and not have a parking space when we've been dealing with this for the last 15 years. And I think it's awful. We don't get notified. I've been over there, and they used to send out letters. But since computers and all this stuff has come up to date, we don't get any kind of notification. Everybody doesn't have computers. But it's bringing our neighborhood down. People have put trailer homes in the back. The zoning is not doing their job, and the codes are not doing their jobs. Y'all need to get out there and see what's going on over there in Manhattan Heights.
Anyone else to speak in opposition? Seeing none, is there a motion for discussion?
For purpose of the discussion, move to approve zone case 3497.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Sorry, we have a motion. Do we have any discussion?
It's just tricky on something like this. I think someone's trying to make a property work, and I think if someone's trying to better a property, and if they can make the parking work, I'm okay with it, in this situation. Economically, if it helps somebody, I'm for it. I just don't know if they can make the parking work. That's not up to us. The city will have to see a site plan, but the structure's clearly been there a long time. And if someone's been living there, who knows? We don't know, but it looks like it would work. So that's all I got to say.
I don't think this is the right spot for this. You know, that infill is not what it needs over there. It's not an infill. This is somebody putting a small apartment in the back, and I mean, I understand the need to make a property valuable and make it a cash flow, but this isn't, I don't believe this is what the neighborhood needs. I don't believe this is what the neighborhood infill was intended to do. And I don't feel good about the project.
So, and just real quickly for staff, there's no other, it has to be the infill overlay district? There's nothing else that this could fall under?
The only other,
Because the term, like infill, to Scott's point, I get it. To Jordan's point, I agree. So are we just stuck with the infill overlay?
the only other option would be a variance, but that is a very high bar to meet the criteria in state law to prove a hardship related to the property in order to vary the minimum lot area.
Okay.
I tend to agree with Scott. I mean, if this was like, you know, you're living in the house and you're building a back house for your mom to live in, then I think it's a little bit different, but as a rental property, and like you said, it's not really infill, so it's not the project for me.
I kind of agree with that. I think when it's one property and not for a neighborhood per se, because it's really for more one individual. And that's kind of my standing on it.
They're not meeting the requirements.
Right.
And so for me, I have an issue. They're not going to be able to meet the requirements that are set for this to happen. And I think that'll be a problem for the neighborhood as well.
As far as parking goes, you know I don't want to see in my neighborhood somebody pour their front yard in concrete to make it parking spaces. I don't think that's attractive. I don't see anywhere else to put 2 more parking spaces. I just don't think that's a good look for the neighborhood. I think they could do better, and I just don't think it's a project that needs to go.
Okay. So we had a motion to recommend by Mr. Wheatley and a second by Mr. Sanders. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion fails 7-1. Will be for the city council. Next zone case is item 3.4, zone case number 3298E.
Good evening, my name is Cassie. This is zone case 3298E. The applicant is Hugo Reed and Associates for Ford Development. The property is in District 4 and is located south of 141st Street and west of Indiana Avenue. We sent out 51 notifications, have received 2 in favor and 0 in opposition. Here is a map outlining the mail-out notification area, marking the 200 feet boundary and the 400 feet boundary. Here is an aerial view of the subject property. The current zoning of the property is industrial park. The neighboring areas surrounding the subject property include undeveloped land with neighborhood commercial district NC zoning. To the north, low density, single family district SF2 zoning for single family residences. To the west, a mix of SF2 and NC zoning on vacant land to the east, and a self-storage facility zoned heavy commercial district to the south. The future land use map designates this area for residential low-density uses. Here are photos of the subject property and its surrounding area. Here is a photo provided by the applicant. The future land use map designates residential low-density land uses in this area. Although the suggested zoning change to NC does not align with this designation, it is appropriate for this location given its location along a thoroughfare and the diverse zoning districts surrounding the property. The request for a zone change to NC is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and appropriate at the proposed location. The proposed zone change is in conformance with the surrounding area, and it will preserve the character of the existing development. The property is located south of 141st Street, which is designated as a local street, and west of Indiana Avenue, which is designated as a principal arterial. Local streets typically provide access to smaller oriented areas as neighborhoods, such as neighborhoods, subdivisions, or local business districts. Arterials are continuous routes whose function is to serve high volume needs of local and regional traffic. Staff recommends approval, and we can take any questions at this time.
Do we have any questions for staff at this time? Thank you, Cassie. Is the applicant or his or her representative here?
Good evening. Got a pretty picture. I'm Terry Holman. I'm with Hugo Reed and Associates. We're at 1601 Avenue N. Our company has a motto that we joke about, that revisionism is the state of the art, and this project definitely kicks that into gear. We've looked at this particular tract a number of different ways over the years and trying to adapt to what the market tells us to do, and we think we finally have a plan that makes sense for us. I think Cassie laid out well where we are. We're facing on Indiana Avenue between 141st and 146th. Yes, we do have self-storage to the south of us, and we have commercial zoning to the north, and certainly a commercial zoning across the street. I showed you this little picture because it kind of drives the point home as to what we're trying to accomplish. But before I do that, I want to explain a little bit how we got to the IP zoning that we currently have today. This is where Ms. Leisure covers her ears for a little bit, because we did this as what we called IDP Light back in the day, and the original zone case was IDP, and we limited it to C2 uses plus office warehouse. That was what we tried to do back in the day. Well, the project didn't come to fruition. Now it comes to UDC, and it's just straight up IP. Well, we would be fine working in the IP zoning for what we want to construct, but for the fact that we want to replat. And this is very similar to the second case you heard tonight, where folks were going to need to replat the property, and they didn't have enough property to get them compliant with the zoning they had. Ours is the exact same case. And so, for example, the IP zoning that we have today, our minimum lot area is 20,000 square feet. Minimum width is 200 feet. The setbacks are 50 some odd feet. We can't do this little commercial park with those constraints. So the fix for us to allow us to do what we want to do and break this into this commercial park with these smaller lots is to go to NC zoning, because the NC doesn't impose these very large lot development standards for us. So while it's a down zone, it's primarily for us to be able to do the project we want to do. It's a little commercial park. It would be maybe small retailers, small wholesalers, maybe some offices. It's whoever we can get in as tenants. But we got to have lots that are less than 20,000 square feet to be able to do what we want to do. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I would appreciate a vote.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Holman?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this zone case? Okay, seeing none, is there anybody to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
Move to approve zone case 3298E.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Hardaway and a second by Mr. Sanders. Is there any discussion? Going once, is that it? Questions? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Hardaway, a second by Mr. Sanders. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 8-0 and will be forwarded to the city council. Yeah, okay. Whatever it is, I'm writing while I'm talking. I'm a rookie. Next one is zone case 3.5, zone case number 2933H.
Okay, this is zone case 2933-H. The applicant is CMS Properties for Denim Sky Capital LTD and Terra Firma Acquisitions LLC, requesting to rezone from SF2 and HDR to NC and AC. However, after speaking to the applicant today, he would like to amend his original request from NC and AC just to AC only, and I will go into further details into the presentation. So we sent out 150 notifications, receiving 16 in favor, 3 in opposition. This property is located west of Milwaukee Avenue, north and south of 98th Street. Here's the notification map. It's an aerial view of the property. To the north is a residential neighborhood. To the east is an apartment complex, residential neighborhood, commercial businesses. To the south is vacant land with a few residential homes. To the west is residential neighborhood and vacant land. The current zoning is high-density residential HDR and low-density single-family SF2. The future land use plan designates this property for commercial land uses, residential low density, residential medium density, and residential high density. Here are photos of the property from 94th Street and additional photos from 98th. Here's an overhead view of the property showing the floodplain. These next few graphics came in later today, and this is going to go into details of what he would like to ask for. So to the left, or my left, is the current zoning that he was asking for, and then you've got the proposed zoning. So if you will notice, south of 94th, he's taken out that NC, and so he just wants to leave it as the HDR and the SF2. South of 98th, he's going to continue to ask for AC, but if you'll notice, he took out that portion right there north of 100th Street. This is a table from our UDC showing the district buffer yard standards. And these are examples of the buffer yards. This graphic is going to show you where the required buffer yard is going to be. He's going to be required a type C buffer yard. I'm going to kind of go back here so you can see the bottom line is the type C. So he has, or the developer will have an option between those two types of buffer yards. Those are 15 feet. The future land use map designates this area for residential high density, residential medium density, residential low density, and commercial land uses. The proposed zone change to the AC would be in conformance with the commercial designation. This request would be appropriate next to adjacent land uses, near a retail node and fronting along 2 arterial streets. The proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance. It is compatible with the surrounding area and will not change the character of the existing development. The proposed rezoning location would be along Quincy Avenue, 98th Street, Milwaukee Avenue, and 100th Street. 100th Street is designated as a local street. Quincy Avenue is a collector, Milwaukee Avenue and 98th as principal arterials. Staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions.
Could you go back to the one where you had what he had before requested
Yeah.
and then what he changed to today?
Right here.
Okay, thank you.
So the one on the right is what we're considering
Yes,
as of today.
yes, as of today.
He wants to go all AC,
Yes,
which is old C3.
That's correct.
Remind us, let's talk a minute, we punted this, for lack of better terms. And one of the big reasons that I recall was the residential across the street, homes that were directly across the street on 94th.
It looks like that's not changing up there now.
Yeah.
But on the south side, up against 100th, there's those
Two houses.
those two houses there that C3 would butt up against, just right there. And I thought we had talked to them about doing garden office or something right there, but apparently they don't. They want to just keep it as AC.
What's 98th, what's the plan for 98th right there?
The plan is for it to be built out. I just don't know.
Like as far as like how many lanes?
It's 2 right now.
Right.
But it would be
Ultimate 7
Should be
lane.
7. Yeah.
7, yeah, 7's for an
I think they
arterial.
just started it, right? Didn't they just?
That's further down. So the construction is to the west of Upland. Right now, this is the built-out section that's just a 2-lane through the lake between Milwaukee and Upland.
Okay.
But it's gonna be 7, right there.
At some point in time.
Yes.
So he would have a 15-foot buffer yard up against that house.
So up against those houses right there to the south, that would actually be the rear. So you're going to have a 15-foot buffer yard, but also if they put construction there, that building will have to be 20 feet from that property line. Just to keep in mind. It's 15 feet from side property lines.
So right there where that house is, it would be what?
So if they were to put something right there in that corner where those homes are, you've got the 15-foot buffer yard, and then you've got that extra 5 feet because they've got to be 20 feet.
Oh,
The building
okay.
does. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
On the west side.
Right there on that west corner.
Okay. Anything else?
First, you're used to it. You've done it for too long. Any other questions for staff? Not, thank you.
Thank you.
Is the applicant or his or her representative here and like to come forward and make comment? If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Alan Moore, 6306 Iola. I want to start off, last month, there was a graphic in there. It was kind of misleading. It was, led to a little confusion there. I hope to make it a little more clear this time. After the discussion last month, we went back to the drawing board to look at different options of what we could do to accommodate some of the items addressed. We came back with a compromise that we could work with here, and it came with a reduced request of 12 acres. Part of that being the square along 94th Street, and the other part being the majority of that frontage on 100th Street. And I'll be here if y'all have any questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
What are the Cs on page 2 in the red?
I believe that's the buffer zone that
Oh.
is used.
Thank you.
So that's the Cs you see there. Those are where the required buffer zones would be for landscape buffering. With that,
Gotcha.
pretty much just needing to be seen most of the way around the property.
Have any other questions for the applicant at this time? Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this zone case? Okay, is anyone to speak in opposition? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Thomas Vinci. I live at 6818 100th Street. So I'm down in that bottom left corner. Of course, I didn't know about this change. When I called, they said that the zoning was going to be the same that they put in the time before. So I appreciate the time to speak. I'll try not to take up too much of your time. I know that one of the things that were stated last time was that it looked like it could be a good plan, but it was mentioned that they should go back to the drawing board, and I was a little shocked when they came back and it was going to be the same exact one. So when I got the letter, it was the one on the left, not the one on the right. So tonight's the first time I've even heard about the change. Last time we talked about my concerns about being surrounded by commercial. Looks like that's going to change a little, but because there's a lot in there. But the pictures that they show, unless you've been out there and seen this area, don't do justice. So I'm going to kind of walk you through a little bit of what these pictures are showing out here. And of course, this changes a little if this is what they're talking about over here. This first picture is from Milwaukee. So I was standing on the edge of Milwaukee, shooting west, and you'll see my house with all those trees right there. So this is where they've already built up. You can see in the far, you can see where the hill comes down. So we sit in a bowl over there. They're building up this side on Milwaukee and continuing to build up, moving towards Quincy. So that's what this picture is kind of showing you. The next picture is going to the corner of 100th and Milwaukee. So you can still see my house over there in the middle left. And you can still kind of see where that hill comes down over by Quincy. And then the high spot is where they're building up over here next to Milwaukee. The staff has already shown you this is a 100-year flood zone. Our property sits right on the edge of it. So the part they're working in right now is in that 100-year flood zone. And our concern right now is this helps a little, but where's that water going? And is it going towards my house, which is already sitting on the edge of the 100-year flood zone? So the water is going to go somewhere. When you sit down in a bowl, unless you bring that whole bowl up, it's going somewhere. And my property is the one that's the prime location to catch that water. The next picture is showing you from the other side. So I'm right above Quincy. So if you look at that second telephone pole or electrical pole, that's Quincy right there. But you can see all this drainage coming down towards Quincy, and it's going towards that property, and it's got to go somewhere. So my house is over there on the right. You can see the trees over to the right. That's where my house sits. So I'm down below. The next picture is going to show you, this is from the neighborhood that's up on that's southwest of me. That neighborhood's up probably at least 15, 20 foot higher than my property. So all the water that comes out of that neighborhood, it runs down to my property. and it usually bypasses my property on the street, and you'll see some pictures a little later, and it drains into the property that they want to turn into the AC. The next picture shows you where that water's running. So it's coming out of that neighborhood. The people that are developing right across the street from me, they're doing everything they can to try to keep that water from turning, because all that water comes down and washes out all their new curb and gutter. And then it just breaks their curb and gutter, then they have to rip it out, and then they have to put it back in. And they're lucky right now because we're not getting rain, but a little later you'll see what it looks like when we get rain. They did put some berms in there on Quincy, some dirt across the road to try to slow that water from coming down and causing so much havoc. And the city put a cease and desist on them the other day. It was interesting. They said they had to fix it by 2/30. Well, I'm not sure when February 30 is, but that's when they had to fix it by. So I guess they had till whenever. But they came in the other day and they moved all that dirt off that road so the water can continue to go back down towards Quincy and then turn right in front of us. The next picture just shows, it's the southeast corner of my property that shoots towards that low area that they want to develop, that's in between 98th and would be probably 99th now, where they have their red. Now the next picture shows you what it looks like when we get rain. Now I'm from Colorado, wife's from Texas. I love rivers. This is the river I get. And you can see this is after the rain because you can't go out there in the middle of the rain. So this is actually slowed down, but this is 100th Street. This is coming out of that neighborhood, running down Quincy, and then turning. And this is where it's wiping out all their curb and gutter. Now, the nice thing is, like I said, that we have a nice river. It's nice to have a river. It's just hard to get out of my house. I do have a 45-foot RV that is next to impossible to get out of this road half the time because it's a mess. The next picture shows you what that street looks like when that water comes down in there. You can see the water across the road. Mail won't come to me. Trash service won't come to me. UPS, all those people won't come to me when that water crosses that road like that. Now, a lot of that water is run off into the area they want to build up. When they build that area up, where's that water going? So that's my concern. It would have been nice. You guys had someone here the other day on a zoning case where they wanted to do something, and the person that wanted to do something went and talked to the neighbors. It would have been awful nice if they would have came and talked to the neighbors, because there's not that many neighbors. You got my house and a couple across the street on this side of 98th. I've sent a letter to them asking them about that, never heard back. Why can't you come talk to me? Tell me what you're planning on, and maybe it's not a big issue. This changes a little bit, but I don't know exactly what their plans are. But I am worried about my house. The next picture shows, we've named it after my wife. That's Lake Levita. We got a nice lake out there. When it's rainy season, this is small compared to as big as it gets. You can see where the grass is green and where it's brown. Where it's green, that's where it actually runs up to. It's nice. I don't want it running into my property. You'll see the next picture shows how pretty it is when it's nighttime. You got the nice lights coming off the businesses over on that corner of 98th and Milwaukee. Waterfowl's great, but you got a water problem. When you're in a flood zone and you want to raise that flood zone up so you can do commercial, somewhere that water's got to go. Now, if my house wasn't there and you built that whole thing up, I guess you could send it across the street where they have the big pit over there. I don't know. I just don't know what the plan is, and I don't want that water running to me. The next one shows you where that flood zone is. In red, I put where the square, or the boxes, that shows where their zoning was originally. You'll see that little square on the left bottom, that's my house. The circles are where they've already brought the land up. So those circle areas, the land's already either higher than Milwaukee now. So if you're on the north side of Milwaukee, the corner of Milwaukee and 98th, that land actually is about 7-8 feet higher than 98th Street. The part on my side is between 98th and Milwaukee on the south side. They brought that up to the level of Milwaukee and 98th, which is higher than my house. So the more they build that up, that water is going to have to run somewhere. Now, I'm not an expert on construction, and I'm not sure where you're going to put that water, but it's going to have to go somewhere. And I don't want it in my house, because like I said last time, with what they're doing, if it's going to affect my property value negatively, but it increases their bottom line, that's the problem I have. I mean, I understand you got to make money. I'm not against that. But don't hurt someone else's property value because of what you're doing. Like I said, this one helps a little bit, but I don't know what they're going to do with the water. And then the last one is it's that pit that's across 100th. Now, we talked last time and it said it was permitted, so I called the city and asked them if the city's permitted this. And the lady I talked to put me on hold, tried to figure it out. She couldn't figure it out. Then they sent me to an engineer. Engineer wasn't available, left a message. They told me he'd call me back, never called me back. So my question is it permitted? Is the city permitted that massive hole that's on the other side of 100th? And if it is, isn't that an easy answer to say, yeah, we got a permit on that? So it's just a mess over there. Last time you saw some other pictures of what 100th Street looks like, I've got trucks that run 8, 9 hours a day, all day running down 100, taking dirt from one side of 100 and dumping it on the other side. So the only way I get out most of the time, if I'm in my truck, I can go down 100th. Otherwise, I have to go towards Quincy and get up into that neighborhood as much as I can and loop around to get back out of here. So it's just a mess. I understand construction. I understand this is growing pains. I'm not trying to stop people from making progress. Just don't hurt my property when you do that is all I'm asking. Okay? Any questions for me? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition to this case? Please come forward and state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Kenny, and my Lubbock home is at 6619 100th Street, and I'm next to the pit that TJ was referring to. And we've been there for 40 years, and I've seen a lot worse, especially when it snows. You have to have a Jeep to get out. So what my concern is about this zoning is it's going to be difficult to live with a hard C3 AC next to our home and TJ's house. Another thing is that this developing corporation, Denham Sky Capital, I think they're overreaching in many areas. The land isn't engineeringly suitable for certain types of commercial businesses. At this time, they're digging out caliche out of the pit and putting it across the street. And right now, they're digging out a lot of sandy loam. That's beautiful for gardening, but it's not a very supportive type material for any type of commercial. And I know the foundations would be a great problem in the future for businesses. My main concern personally is this changing the zoning on 100th Street. Anything to do with 100th Street should be disallowed. The commercial 98th Street is inevitable because Lubbock's moving that direction. But in a lake bottom, we've had a playa lake there ever since we've lived there. And when it rains, the playa lake fills up. Now, they want to divert that lake to the pit, which is close to where we live. I don't see the necessary plans for that. I know TJ has pretty much explained everything that we're coming up against, but right now we're dealing with a pit that wasn't zoned by the city. I mean, it wasn't permitted by the city. I've spoken to Shane on many occasions, and there was an issue with engineering and with I think it was stormwater. They couldn't find any permits that would allow this pit to be utilized and built and moved from in a residential area pretty much becoming commercial and moving it across the street. So we feel like we've been violated, if you will. We've been trashed. It's like we once had a beautiful valley, now it's just being destroyed. And I must say that I vehemently oppose any type of rezoning in this area, especially on 100th Street. And I could talk for a long time, but I want to say thank you for your time. If you have any questions for me, to specify, clarify anything, if you have anything. We good? Okay.
Did good. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition to this case? If not, do I hear a motion?
Purposes of discussion, move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Sawyer and a second by Mr. Wheatley. And we have discussion on this, please.
Yeah, so,
Can we compartmentalize first? Can we, so
yes, yeah,
we have a zoning and we've heard about
drainage.
flooding, drainage.
So drainage is
We'll
not.
let
our-
Brandon speak to the drainage, but let's compartmentalize just so we're not shooting across the.
So on the drainage deal, drainage is not what we're here to hear, but typically when you start a development, you start construction, a drainage analysis report's required. So I don't know if they've got that at this point or not, but if they're ever gonna build something here or plat this, they gotta do a drainage analysis report. So that's gonna be taken into account somewhere at some point, but set that aside. So for the zoning, here we are.
And I kind of, in a little bit, defer to you because you're the one you had the good points last time about them coming back and coming to the drawing board. And I'd like to hear your thoughts about what their plan was coming back, good, bad, indifferent.
The AC, so what we talked about, just my concern was the two houses there, and then we heard from the two guys. And what we had talked about was putting an office or something around there, but they've come back with AC, and it comes with that top C buffer yard, so it's 15 foot of vegetation, and then a building would be 5 foot beyond that, so you're 20 foot total, skirting across the north side of that guy's residential property. C3, or I'm sorry, AC could be, I think, up to fast food, up to a lot of things. I sure wish both of these both sides would get together and talk about this. I think there's a better solution still. I wish that they would just get together and talk and visit and come up with a solution, but C3 up against the house right there, I still don't like, or AC, I still don't like it. I don't like that they haven't talked. I don't like that there's unanswered questions on the drainage deal, even though we're not supposed to consider that. It still seems like there's a lot of loose questions on this thing.
Yeah, and I would also add another concern. Let's go across the 98th over to 94th, directly across the street from the residents that face south. Having NC there was also a concern, or it was at least a concern of mine.
Or NC or AC.
It's going away, though.
Yeah, because see, they're taking the NC away.
SF2, HDR2, NC.
The right side.
You go to the other, you need to go to the
Right side.
Here now.
Right
I
side.
stand corrected. Okay, I read that wrong. I
Yeah,
was looking
just-
at the wrong one. Okay.
Easy to do. So we made some concessions, but is it really
Yeah.
answering the really concerns were on the other side of the street more, from where I was looking.
Yeah.
This is a tough one for me. I mean, I agree with the flooding stuff, or the drainage, but what I disagree with is, I mean, if this is gonna be it's 98th Street in Milwaukee, it's gonna be a 7-lane road across there. In the future land use map, we designate those, major intersections as commercial nodes. And so to me, this is actually consistent with that. And so for me, at least, I'm okay with it, unfortunately.
So commercial nodes, so like adjacent to Milwaukee and 98th? Right?
Yeah, the commercial nodes would be on Milwaukee 98th, and then Quincy's what, a half-mile marker?
Yeah.
That's true.
So my concerns kind of echo Jordan's, is I don't love the AC up against the residences, and then we have AC on 100th Street. Like, that should be a residential area. It still seems odd to me. I have lots of concern about the flooding. I drive this regularly 4 times a day. I'd like to see it be something other than just a lake, but I don't know if it's quite there for me yet.
Any other comments? Y'all ready to call the question?
I have a question for the applicant. Have you considered reaching out to these two homeowners and talking, getting on the same page?
No, sir. We just, after the last meeting, it didn't seem like there was any sort of compromise that would accommodate what they would want. It seemed like it just needed to say what it was, and I don't think this is what it should remain.
Okay.
On 2 arterial streets. What we had considered initially before removing portions of our request was that we would have some form of NC buffer around the neighbor to the north of 100th Street. The issue with that I thought was, you can still do a lot of the same uses there, but the landscape buffer also reduces. So why would you not want more landscape buffer to separate you from someone else? So we ended up keeping that the same along 98th Street and removing the portion on 100th Street. Outside of that, if you look at that lot to the north of 100th Street, there's actually 2 lots to that property. The north portion is a vacant lot at this point where the house resides fronting 100th Street. It's about 125 feet off of the property line already. So then you would throw another 15 foot of landscape buffer. Any property really needs to have a driveway around the building, so you're putting another 25 feet there. If there was parking, sidewalk, it all really adds up to that, the actual distance that would be something that could happen in that development.
So you, in your plan, you have to have AC up against the houses on the two houses of the gentleman that spoke tonight. You have to have AC up against that.
That is our
for your plan.
Our plan on the north side. Then on the west side, the east side, it would not be AC. It would remain residential. And yes, one neighbor is to the north there of 100th Street. The other neighbor is about 150 foot south of 100th Street. But he is not in that same location.
Any other discussion? Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Sawyer and a second by Mr. Wheatley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay.
No.
Can we have a show of hands, please?
Yeah. All in favor? All opposed?
I was opposed. Sorry.
So motion fails 3-5. It will be forwarded to the city council. Next case, zone case number 3.6, 2985E.
Hello, I'm Victoria, and this is zone case 2985E. The applicant is 17 Services LLC for Cody Craig Custom Homes LLC. The request is a zone change from high-density residential district to both single-family residential district and neighborhood commercial district. The subject property is located north of 114th Street and west of Elkhart Avenue. We sent out 112 letters, receiving 3 in favor and 2 in opposition. Here's a mail-out map. Of the 2 in opposition, only 1 wrote in that they are worried about taxes increasing for their property. Here's an aerial view. The properties to the north and east are single-family homes and a daycare. Southern properties are developed with offices, and the western property is unplatted vacant land. The current zoning is high-density residential. The north and east properties are low-density single-family and high-density residential. The southern properties are zoned office district. The western property is zoned auto-urban commercial. The future land use map designates this for both medium-density residential and commercial uses. Here are some photos of the property and its surroundings. This image overlays a zoning request over a submitted site plan by the applicant. The top portion, as a reminder, is SF2 and the bottom is NC. This image is the proposed plat from the applicant. The proposed neighborhood commercial zoning is along a major street, blocking the residential development from high traffic. The requested zone, SF2, is more restrictive than MDR. Therefore, these proposed zoning requests comply with the comprehensive plan principles and is in conformance with the zoning ordinance. The proposed zone change is compatible with the surrounding area and will not change the character of the existing development. Located north of 114th Street and west of Elkhart Street, the 2018 Master Thoroughfare Plan designates them as a minor arterial partial and a local street. The intended use will be appropriate at the proposed location.
Staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions at this time.
Do we have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, thank you very much. Is the applicant or his or her representative here and wish to speak?
Hi, my name is Kaylee Hernandez. I'm representing 17 Services. The address is 1500 Broadway Street, Suite 203. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes, ma'am. So these are going to be, as shown, these are going to be townhomes up against the existing residential? Is that right?
Yes, you are correct. Those are townhomes, but they are also abutting SF2. So if you're looking at the previous, I don't know how to go back. Let's see.
That one, yeah.
Here, okay. So
go
across from 113th, as you can see, that northern portion, it would be the yellow, like you're seeing surrounding it. And then the southern portion would be neighborhood commercial, which is much like the blue right here.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that? Yeah. Okay, so you would see the yellow on the north, and then you'd see the blue on the south. So it looks just identical to what's across the street almost, except for the daycare.
So is there a slide to show what's proposed, or is this it?
So this is the proposed. So yes, it is townhomes, but it's SF2, which also aligns with the surrounding SF2.
All right. So these are 4, 5, and 6 plexes, I guess?
It's a total of 13. It's 5.23 acres.
I think he was talking like 4 or 5 units in each
Oh,
building.
yes. They vary from 4 to 6 units. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's a combination of 1 and 2 stories.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this zone case? Okay, not seeing any. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Purpose of discussion, motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Sawyer and a second by Mr. Goya. And I guess I should say close the public hearing. I should have done that. I've got that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
discussion.
Anybody have any heartburn with 2-story structures in this complex?
I like it. I mean, this is what I like to look for on something where you've got commercial in the front and then you've got some sort of buffer between these houses. This is kind of what I was trying to get at, but I like this. It's a good use up against the back on the north side, up against those houses, to buffer those with townhomes. Anyway, I like it.
I think it looks good, kind of blends with the other surrounding parts as well. Any other comments, questions? Go. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 8-0. Next item 3.7, zone case 3498. Staff?
All right, this is Zone Case 3498. The applicant is Hot and Juicy Seafood LLC for Texas Brother LLC, requesting to rezone from Industrial Park District to Heavy Commercial District. The property is located west of Frankfurt Avenue and south of 50th Street. 24 letters were sent out, and we did not receive any back. Here is the aerial view of the property. The property is surrounded by commercial buildings with public park to the west. The current land use map shows the properties to the west zoned Industrial Park District and Low-Density Single-Family District. To the north are properties zoned Heavy Commercial District and Light Industrial District. To the west is zoned Heavy Commercial District, and to the south is zoned Industrial Park District. The future land use map designates this property for commercial uses. Here's a picture of the subject's property, as well as views to the south, east, and north. The future land use map designates this property for commercial land uses. The proposed zone change to HC would be in conformance with the future land use plan and comprehensive plan principles. The proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance. The subject's property is located on Frankfurt Avenue and is developed with commercial uses. The downzoning to proposed heavy commercial district will not change the surrounding area or the character of the existing development. The location is along Frankfurt Avenue, which is designated as a minor arterial, and 50th Street, which is designated as a local street. Staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions at this time.
Okay, do we have any questions for the staff at this point?
Same question I've been having apparently. Why the down zone?
Okay, so this is, I guess with the adoption of the UDC, it designated this area as industrial park. And different than our old code is the zone does not stack. So the uses they're asking for is a personal service use that is not allowed industrial park. So in order to get this use allowed, they would have to down zone.
When you say personal service use, such as?
This, I believe, is a nail salon, is what they're trying. Is it? A massage parlor, I apologize. Okay. Still falls under personal service, so.
Bill Belichick.
This is the most down zones we've had in a planning and zoning meeting ever.
It's always wanting to
It doesn't
go
allow
up.
for
Everything's
personal
going down
services
this time. It's
in
not.
IP.
Bill Belichick.
Any other questions for staff?
That's good, Jordan. No, we're good.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant or his or her representative like to come forward? If you'll please state your name and address for the record, please.
Here to represent Mr. Liu, and my name is Johnny Zarazua, 1905 44th here in Lubbock.
Okay, and would you like to explain a little bit what you're trying to do? I think we touched on it, but if you...
Yeah, you touched on it. They're just trying to see if we can get we didn't know we had zone changes and rezoning stuff that was needing to occur because it's already commercial, and it's got heavy commercial. So we were looking to see if we could get that changed as per the landlord. So we didn't know he had to do it. So
Okay,
so that's why we're here, just to fill in the request that we had to come by.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Okay, we'll now close the public hearing. If for a matter of discussion, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's a down zone. It's a down zone.
It's okay, we have a motion to approve by Mr. Sawyer, a second by Mr. Noble. Do we have any discussion?
So to be clear, we're changing this from a seafood restaurant to a massage parlor.
No, that's just the owner's name.
It's just, it's the,
Okay.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah,
It's okay.
because isn't there a restaurant named Hot and Juicy?
So there is a restaurant named Hot and Juicy.
Okay.
Same owner, correct?
restaurant is just backing up the new place that's going to be, what, 3 doors down?
That's correct. So this is just a rezone of Suite 460A, which is currently a vacant suite at this time.
It used to be a pharmacy.
And that's part of the reason where the rezone has to be applied here, or where they have to apply for the rezone, because it's currently not established under the old code, so it wouldn't
okay,
be-
so, and it's going for one suite then, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
460.
Not the old Durangos. That's what he said. Clearing it up. It was confusing.
We did try to reach out for the, just the record, we did try to reach out to the owner to see if they wanted to go ahead and apply it to the whole building. We were unable to get in contact with them. So we are just able to, per the applicant's request, just the suite.
Suite 460. Okay, thank you. Do we have any other discussion?
So is he the owner of the building?
No.
No, he's not the owner. He's just going to rent that place out.
Can you do that?
The owner did sign the application.
Okay.
The owner did sign the application and agreed to it. He just, when we tried to reach out to him, we were not able to make contact with him.
Okay.
So.
Okay, any other discussion, guys and girls? Okay, we have a motion and a second for zone case 3498.
I think you're still in your public hearing.
No,
weren't
we
you?
closed the public hearing and
Oh,
already
okay,
had.
sorry.
I got you this
You
time.
did, you got me.
You usually get me. Okay, can I have a motion and a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 8-0. For zone case 3.8, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hardaway. Mr. Sawyer and I need to recuse from this one.
Next up is zone case 2573T, and we'll hear from staff.
This is zone case 2573T. The applicant is Park Hill for UMC Health System, requesting a zone change from high-density residential district to auto-urban commercial district. The subject property is located north of Colgate Street and west of North Slide Road. We sent out 114 letters, receiving none back. Here is an aerial view. Properties to the north and west are duplexes and undeveloped townhomes. The eastern and southern properties are developed with a UMC hospital and apartments. The current zoning is high-density residential. Properties to the north and west are zoned MDR. The eastern and southern properties are zoned HDR. The future land use map designates this for commercial uses. Here are some photos of its property and its surroundings. The future land use map designates this area for commercial land uses. The proposed zone change is compatible with this designation and is in conformance with the zoning ordinance. The proposed zone change is compatible with the surrounding area and will not change the character of the existing development. An existing UMC medical facility was developed in 2022 on the subject property and track K2 of the same development. The applicant is requesting a zone change in order to accommodate an expansion of the hospital by 26 beds or 16,200 square feet addition. Located north of Colgate Street and west of North Slide Road, the 2018 Master Thoroughfare Plan designates this as a principal arterial and local street. The intended use will be appropriate at the proposed location. Staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions at this time.
Do we have any questions for staff? Will the applicant please come forward, state your name, address, please?
My name is Jonna Anthony with Park Hill at 4222 85th Street. We're representing Encompass Health of this project, and this facility has served as a leading provider of inpatient physical rehabilitation for complex neurological and orthopedic conditions since 2018, and they're seeking to expand their services to the community with an additional 26-bed addition. And so the facade's going to stay the same, and we're hoping to just continue what the building has been doing and with the bed addition. And the only reason that we need for this zone case is before the UDC, we were, it was an allowed permitted use, and so we went to high density residential after the UDC, which is now a conditional use for only 5 acres, and since our property is over 6, we don't meet the conditional use requirements. So, any questions?
Questions for the applicant? Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Hearing none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? We'll now close the public hearing and open it for discussion.
Move to approve.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, now we are through with our normal business. We'll now move to other business. We're going to go to item 4.1, consideration and adoption of neighborhood plans for the Jackson Mahon and Dunbar Manhattan Heights neighborhood.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Wilson Bowling. I'm the neighborhood planner with the city of Lubbock. I know I don't come before you too often, but it's very good to be here. Tonight, we're going to be discussing our first 2 neighborhood plans. In the comprehensive plan, the Plan Lubbock 2040 that was adopted back in December 2018, one of the recommendations was to begin a formal neighborhood planning program. To quote actually from the comprehensive plan, to authorize a series of city-initiated master plans for eastern and northern Lubbock neighborhoods. These plans should include individual vision and action plans developed by or in partnership with each neighborhood. The plan should be adopted as an addendum to the comprehensive plan. So these will actually be additional plans when we look at projects in these neighborhoods. You would look at these plans just as you would the comprehensive plan. At the council meeting on October 12th, 2021, Mayor Pope tasked council members Juan Chadas, Sheila Patterson-Harris, and Jeff Griffith to serve on a neighborhood planning subcommittee, really with the purpose of determining the first 4 neighborhoods that we would develop these plans for. This subcommittee completed the following task. They selected the evaluation criteria for the neighborhoods. These are known as key performance indicators. I then collected the data for these key performance indicators, reported back, and using these, we were able to determine the first 4 neighborhoods based on the data. The performance criteria that we used, that the subcommittee narrowed down: home ownership rate, poverty rate, the number of building permits within the last year, median home value, the number of unsafe structures per 100 structures in the neighborhood, the number of nonviolent crimes per 1,000 residents in the neighborhood, and the number of healthcare facilities within 3 miles. And I'll get back to that last one here in just a moment. The first 4 neighborhoods in order based on these key performance indicators, starting in order, would be the Dunbar Manhattan Heights neighborhood in East Lubbock, the Jackson and Mahon neighborhoods combined, the Parkway and Cherry Point neighborhood and Arnett Benson. At the same time that we were working on these key performance indicators, picking out these first 4 neighborhoods, the health department received a grant for community and neighborhood health. $250,000 of that was allocated to us at the planning department to hire consultants to help us with the first 2 plans, so Dunbar Manhattan Heights and Jackson and Mahon. After the bidding process, we hired Rayo Planning in 2022. The reason we used a healthcare component in these key performance indicators is knowing that we had the grant money coming from a federal health department funding. We needed to make sure we had a health component in there. So the Dunbar Manhattan Heights neighborhood, I'm going to kind of go over the boundaries of both these neighborhoods. Dunbar Manhattan Heights is surrounded by 19th Street on the north, Loop 289 both to the east and south, and Southeast Drive to the west. Jackson and Mahon are actually 2 separate neighborhoods, but they are side by side and have very similar demographics, so it made sense to do these neighborhoods together. The boundaries there would be Erskine to the north, Avenue Q, University Avenue, and the Marcia Sharp Freeway. Clovis Highway divides the 2 neighborhoods, north and south. Jackson being the southernmost neighborhood, Mahon being the northern. To go over kind of our planning process, our consultants came into town quite a few times. We held many public meetings. We had not just our normal nightly meetings, we had meetings at lunches at the senior centers, which actually gathered quite a few people, meet and greets at local businesses, at grocery stores, try to catch as many people as possible, talk about what's going on. The first phase was an education phase. This was to really inform the neighborhood of what to expect throughout this process, what we are trying to do. Also explain things like what is zoning, what is land use, what's the difference between these things. In phase 2, we looked at the existing conditions and brought those to the neighborhood. So actually all the data that we collected on the neighborhood brought this in an easy to digest format to the neighborhood. We also set up a social pinpoint interactive map, a place where people, members of the neighborhood, could pinpoint direct spots maybe, let's say, an intersection. So they could tell us, is this good? Is it bad? Could it be better? What is the actual issue here? And you can actually see the example on the top right, all the pinpoints within the Jackson-Mahon neighborhood there. Phase 3 was the visioning, actually coming up with a vision statement. We used a method called the Place It method, which kind of gets people out of the standard way of thinking of how they think about the neighborhood to truly find what is important to them so that we can create a true vision. Phase 4 was the surveying. We sent out a survey to every home within both of these neighborhoods. We also had them online and distributed these at meetings. Phase 5, the draft review, we had, I would say, at least a dozen poster boards that we brought to both the neighborhoods with our recommendations. We also had a place where they could write on these poster boards to give us feedback in real time. What do they like? What do they don't like? Did we do something wrong? Is this right? And then in the wrap-up phase, we actually held neighborhood parties in their local parks. Basically a thank you for coming and putting in the work. I know all of you know how much work it takes to come up with these plans and work in these commission settings. Really, there were three main themes that came out of all these meetings: neighborhood vitality and beautification, transportation, infrastructure, pedestrian safety, and commercial and retail development. Underneath each of these, we have goals. Underneath the goals, strategies, and we actually do have sub-strategies underneath there so that to really lead us to these goals. Under neighborhood vitality and beautification, we have increase and maintain affordable housing options and enhance neighborhood character and quality of life.
What does create a sense of place mean on that strategy under quality of life?
That is a very good question. That is really, it's like making a house a home, but in a neighborhood sense. It is, have you heard the term placemaking? So there's a lot of different strategies, but let's say you have a vacant lot. People can come and actually set up just temporary art exhibits, booths, to get people to see what it can be. One of the easy, small recommendations, one of the sub-strategies under that, is street sign toppers. It's a very small thing, but it actually adds a sense of community, just having the name of the neighborhood above. But thank you. Under transportation infrastructure and pedestrian safety, we have the goal of enhanced multimodal transportation options. Commercial and retail development is to promote and enhance commercial opportunities. So really the next steps, it'll be going to council on April the 9th, 2024. That'll be the public hearing and the first reading. If approved, the second reading of the ordinance on April 23rd. If that is adopted, we'll begin working on implementation of these goals immediately, the ones that we can, by use of our capital improvement project funds. Currently, our CIP is sitting at just over $477,000. So we'll be getting to work immediately. I thank you so much for your time, and I am open to any questions.
Do we have any questions? Surely somebody's got some questions. Now, you put a lot of work to go into this. I want to go back on the 477. Is it just for these two neighborhoods, or would it be for all four of them, or is this just specific for this one?
So we started just with these two, and the consultant helps with the first two. Continuing on, the next will be Parkway Cherry Point, and that'll be me alone working on this, on that plan.
The question was when you're talking about the dollars.
Oh, the 477?
Right.
So this, as it stands now, we have received, how much per year, Kristen?
$250,000.
$250,000 per year from council to be put in this capital improvement fund. Hopefully that'll continue so we can use as much of this on these two neighborhoods and then continue on year by year both these neighborhoods and other neighborhoods
Okay, well,
carrying
that's what
on
I
with
just
that
didn't know
fund.
if it was just set up for these two and then there'd be more for the other ones that come up, or if it was divvied up, this was the amount that would be divvied up.
Thank you.
Just have a question about, does that mean, give us an idea of how far that funding is going to go? How many projects? What's first on the agenda? What's something that can be done with $500,000 for these neighborhoods?
All right, so some of the things we can start doing, there's some small projects such as the street sign toppers, which really, that's not a huge expense. That's not going to whittle down much. Things like restriping crosswalks. But there are some things that we want to look at, let's say, putting in bike lanes throughout the neighborhood or on more of the arterial there on, let's say, MLK. We have to start doing all of the phase 1, phase 2 engineering plans. And we could start using some of this money on that and hopefully get matching grants and things like that. There's a number of things we can use some of the funds for. It's just I would have to go and narrow down specifically what we're going to start with and how we're going to divvy up the funds. But there's a number of things we can start looking at, and I'm already starting to.
No, and I guess that's one of the kinds of things. What do you consider the low-hanging fruit?
Things like the low-hanging fruit, street sign toppers, crosswalks. I would say some of the beautification efforts we can do. We have some things, things that don't even cost money, like us going to teach people about, let's say, like you heard earlier, the neighborhood infill overlay. Planning department, make a recommendation. I've actually made the recommendation in here that we need to do a better job of actually informing the public what that is and how to best utilize that. So that's some of the very easy low-hanging fruit.
And Mr. Bowling, are you also including collaboration with different agencies within the community to help you continue this project on? So it's not just them using all of this money, am I correct? You're going to be collaborating with others to make it happen also, right?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. So in here, we have recommendations not only for our department, but other departments throughout the city. I have recommendations for the neighborhood association itself, and finding ways, recommendations in here to search out and work with nonprofit and other community partners. And I've already actually had a great conversation of trying to put our heads together and figure out the best way to work with a community partner on a home rehabilitation project that would be outside of really what I can do, but it's something that the neighborhood, the nonprofits, and just me working with them, getting that started.
Do you have a list of items that make up this 477 budget? Does the public have access to a list of what that's for the budget? How'd you get this 477?
So we actually had a total of 500,000, but we also have what's called the Neighborhood Project Program, which is a separate program that does small-scale projects in neighborhoods throughout the city. Mm-hmm. That has used right now that additional amount from the 477. What would that be? The 23,000 out of that.
So I guess in a way what he's saying, you don't really have line item budgets. You just have this much money set aside to help with these different programs or projects.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, we're not necessarily limited to this amount that you see on the screen, assuming council chooses to continue funding this capital improvement project as they have been.
Okay.
Well, I'll say thank you for the work. I mean, in District 1, I appreciate it, and I know she does. So, why it's not a lot of money when you think of, because I think in hospital terms, so when I look at that amount of money, I'm like, that's not even, that's nothing in what we spend, but I appreciate the work that you're putting into it, and excited to see that we can add to that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, it was published as a public hearing.
That's what I was fixing to ask, if we needed to open it up.
It doesn't require a public hearing, but since it was published as that, we'll give everybody an opportunity.
You bet. So, as we said, we'll open a public hearing. If any of y'all would like to come up and speak, I guess, for or against, or give some of your comments upon these programs, we would welcome your comments. Does anybody wish to make any comments? Okay. If we not have anybody, can we have a motion to approve both of these neighborhood plans? Or do I need to do individual or both, okay? To both the Dunbar Manhattan Heights and the Jackson Mahon neighborhood plans as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Noble and a second by Mr. Hardaway. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Okay, the motion carries 8-0, and we'll be going to the city council for their April 9th meeting. It is 7:57, and the meeting is adjourned.